everybody's talking about put on a mask, put on a pair of gloves, sanitize this. Well, why don't you put on a goddamn condom and download Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast? I'm Rock.
And I'm Archie.
Well, our opinions, they might not matter to some, but...
What are you doing in there?
It's a podcast.
Immature, crass, trashy. And those are their good qualities. These poor schmucks are a couple of IQ points away from eating paste. But when it comes to music, sports, and comedy, well, that's all they know. You're listening to
Not These Two Fucking Guys.
Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast. So we are continuing the COVIDiot sessions. I'm at home. Rocco's at home. Hopefully, okay, Rock, it's cool. We're not having a podcast or anything. You can play whatever you want.
Is that my phone?
Prick.
Hey, let me tell you something. So
Yeah, please do.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this. I was talking to somebody today, and it's funny that you say that. I was talking to somebody today, and they're like, yo, Archie eats cock sandwiches. And I'm like, what? And I fucking defended you, okay? I defended you. I'm like, he don't eat fucking bread.
Oh, God. If there's one thing I can count on, it's you. Just you fucking let me
fucking
down.
Duck running.
So we are still at home during these COVIDiot sessions. We're still bringing it to the people. We are still rocking and rolling. Oh, fuck yeah, we are, bro.
Now, listen, I'm down. If you say so, I'm fucking down with it.
The guests that we got coming up.
Yikes, dude.
I'm very happy about today's guest, to be honest with you. Like, this is one of my favorite. It's gonna be tits, as the kids say. But first, we're gonna start off with a little comedy. Rocky, are you ready?
Oh, yes, sir.
And here we go.
I walk a 100-pound pit bull down the street. I'm a tough-looking son of a bitch, okay? I walk a 3-pound peekaboo down the street. They're looking for my husband walking behind me.
Rocco, so we got a real funny dude whose special came out, I think it was in 2014, by the man Mark Norman.
He's literally, and I'm going to speak for you on this one, my man.
Okay, go ahead.
One of our favorite fucking comedians.
Yes.
And this is like the lost art. This was a comedy album. You don't see them getting released a ton these days, but this was, I think, 2014, called Still Got It. I'm going to go on a limb here and say it was fucking amazing.
Which limb is that?
Your sister's limb. Yikes.
One for Rocco. Mark Norman, this self-deprecating genius of a comic, comes out with fire. And when I say fire, I mean really either A, hates himself, or B,
hates us.
Hates us. Now, what I love about Mark Norman during his stand-up, he's always like, yeah, racism. I don't like racism. Any racists out there? Like, you hear fucking like a silent crowd. And then he'll go like he'll be like, paying money for sex. It's not a bad thing. Anybody pay for sex out there? and you hear people like, cricket. Yes, exactly. So he does that a lot. Gives me a chuckle.
I like the bit where he's like talking about getting hammered and losing his phone. And he talks about, I think, his uncle. And he's like, uncle has been sober for 30 years. Like, yeah, same thing happened to me. He's like, how fucked up do you have to get? See, 30 years ago, he's like, how fucked up do you have to get to lose a landline? He finds the right blend of sarcasm, humor, cursing. He actually just blends together so well. And that's why it really actually speaks to me personally. And I know you like the same kind of humor. So
I do. A lot of prejudice where I was growing up. Any Jews here? Mm-hmm. You hear a couple of people, he's like, just enough.
Too many.
Mark Norman, Still Got It, is one of our top comedy albums out right now. I know it came out in 2014, but it's just so fucking funny. His dry humor, the self-deprecating humor towards himself, all types of skits as far as the gays, Jews, religion, offended about weed, girls, sluts. You guys out there have to give Mark Norman a listen if you haven't. He is one of the best up and coming comics out there right now.
He's got a little bit of everything for somebody. What? No, he fucking the one scale there. We're talking about how I think it's entitled Gigs, and he's like, you're an animal, and you have like animals that have to have jobs. He's like, you're a seeing eye dog, and then all of a sudden you're at the park and you see a regular dog whose owner's throwing him a frisbee. He's like, what the fuck? I'm dragging this blind guy around, and like, you're fucking catching a frisbee. The way he identifies his humor is pretty funny on this.
Mark Norman has gained some speed throughout the years. I mean, he's got a special called "Don't Be Yourself," produced by Amy Schumer. Been on the Tonight Show. He's been on the Conan, I think, 8 times. Stephen Colbert.
Did you just say the Conan?
The Conan? The Conan. And
you're a real silly goose there, Jason. I'll tell you that much.
You're a fucking piece of shit. He is one of our top comics out there right now. Everybody give Mark Norman a listen. Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get yo shit. Hey, Rock.
What's up, homeboy?
Right now, I want to talk to you about the Big Blue Wrecking Crew. And I'm not talking about
my balls.
I'm talking about the New York motherfucking Giants.
Oh, yeah, man. Now we're fucking talking.
Dave Gettleman, they need an O-line.
They need O-line and they need an edge rusher.
They do. Now, a lot of people say that Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson is going to be their first round.
I agree.
You do agree. Cleveland's also going for him too.
Correct.
But I think if Gettleman doesn't put the cards where they're supposed to be, this could be his final draft.
I think Gettleman has a short leash, right? So he, obviously last year drafted Daniel Jones. Some people thought that they could have waited till the second round to get him, but I like what I see in Daniel Jones, and I'm a believer of if that's your guy, fuck it, draft him in the first round. Don't wait and give somebody else a chance, right? Like you said, getting in an O lineman, but they also need pass rushing too. So that's the Giants too big. I mean, because you have Jones, you have Saquon Barkley, who's arguably one of the best running backs in the league, but offensive line, defensive line, that's what's going to make or break them this year.
I'm going out on a limb and say Saquon Barkley wasted 2 years of his life in the NFL with no line. And
that's the problem too. So the average running back, their longevity in the NFL is 5 years. Well, he wasted almost half his fucking career already, right?
Yeah.
And the way he runs and how athletic he is and how many chances he takes, I personally don't think he's going to be on the high end side of 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, he's super physical. He's a generational back. And I think I agree with you. 2 years have kind of been, you don't want to say wasted, but I mean, this kid's a stud.
Little trivia for you. Do you know the last time the Giants in the first round took an edge rusher? Do you know who it was and what year?
I'm going to just guess here. Justin Tuck.
Incorrect.
Your sister.
No, she was second round.
OCU Umenyiora.
1984 Carl Banks.
Oh, number 50-8, man. He was my dude.
CB. Yeah. Dude, if you look back at the Giants throughout the years, we had a Taylor.
And Taylor.
Artie Lang reference. We had Pierre Paul. We had Michael Strahan. Ooh. We always had a rusher. The Giants don't have that type of guy in that position right now. I
agree.
So getting Isaiah Simmons from Clemson would be a good choice because there's a good chance that we could get those offensive tackles maybe later in the draft. They'll still be there. I just know that if we're going to utilize Barkley and Jones, we have to protect the motherfucking ass. So we need a line.
Well, that was the thing with Eli and all the Eli haters out there saying he was shit, he was declining. I don't care who you are. You could be Tom Brady. If you don't give them time to throw, you're not going to succeed. I mean, he legit was fucking on the ground every third play. I mean, I don't know what you expect from somebody if your offensive line is not up to par. I mean, you're not going to succeed.
They were third in the league with 119 hits on the quarterback.
Jesus Christ.
Letting up 119 hits on the quarterback. You and I, we're big Giants fans. We want to see them succeed. It could be worse. You could like the Jets.
Oof.
So...
Hey, keep the comments. Keep the comments above the belt, okay, pal?
If you want to step to the other side of the line, our secondary is no better. Yeah, we do have Peppers at safety, which I think he's going to come into his own this year. At the corners, yeah, No bueno, sir.
Yeah, their secondary has been suspect for a couple of years now, and Jabril Peppers, who's my brother's alma mater, Paramus Catholic. He was a stud coming out of high school.
East Orange, right? Was he from East Orange too? Right?
I think so. But
I believe so.
Out of Paramus Catholic, went to Michigan. He was a stud. Past 30, 40 years, they've been predicated upon their defense. Right? They never had a prolific offense. It was their defense. Like you mentioned guys like Carl Banks, right? So like back in that era, it was like Banks, Taylor, Steve Diassi. I mean, they had some like sick linebackers, sick edge rushers, going back on to Osi Umenyiora, Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck. And they just need to draft that kind of quality and that kind of presence now because it's obviously lacking.
All right. Well, fellow Giant fans out there, anybody want to write in? Tell us how you feel. Tell us who you think that the Giants should pick. You can always reach us at NTTFGPOD@gmail.com. That's not these two fucking guys. We hope that I think the draft is this Saturday coming up.
Virtual draft.
We hope that the first virtual draft, right?
Yep.
What a shame. We hope that the Giants do good. So there's a very good chance they might even trade down.
They could because they have the fourth pick, right? So they if there isn't somebody that jumps at the page on them, they could trade down. If
I had to put you on the spot right now, 2020, the New York Giants take in the first round, who would you go?
I would say, gun to my head, bullet to the dome. I would say they're going to take the linebacker Isaiah Simmons. I believe that.
You believe that? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that the New York Giants do the right thing, and we shall see. Yo, bro, I have to tell you, the other day I was feeling a little frisky. You know how we're metal dudes, but I had to go club, and I had to take it way back. And not only did I take it way back.
To when?
2000.
Oof.
99, 2000. Yeah. And not only did I take it way back, but it brought me back to such a better place than where we are right now as far as being quarantined up and the times that we had at the Jersey Shore and the times that we had around here.
We were like the original Jersey Shore.
Yeah, but just cooler.
Yeah. So I got to say, I was so psyched when I heard about our next guest for what he meant to us growing up. We're big into music and obviously we're metalheads, but I mean, this is something that we were brought up with living in Jersey, going to the Jersey Shore. And I don't want to minimize it. He was much bigger than that because he sold a fucking metric ton of records.
Absolutely, Rock. In fact, when I sent you the text to say, I just confirmed this guest, what was the first thing you did?
I think you heard it, and it went bum 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 bum. I'll tell you this though, our Bloomfield friends are gonna be fucking super jealous.
Be quiet. Louie DeVito.
It's coming.
Well, I'm just going to throw this out here. You ready? 23 compilations since 1999. Has sold over 2 million CDs. New York City Underground Party Volume 3, my favorite, sold more than 500,000 copies, putting him in the Guinness Book of World Records as the all-time selling DJ mix compilation. Ladies and gentlemen, Louie DeVito. What's up, Lou?
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me tonight.
Thanks for joining us, pal.
Absolutely.
So first off, I just want to show you something. You can see this is audio. Everybody knows that. You see, I don't know if you can see this right here. These are notes going over your career, cuz this is your career. Last night I'm sitting in my office and I'm like, you want to know what? I got a little daughter. My wife's home. She's pregnant. I come into the office. Everyone's just tired. Everybody's home because of this fucking virus. I come into the office. I'm like, let me just listen to a little bit of his music. I haven't listened to it in a little while. I love all of his shit from back in the day. Let me just listen to it. And I'm just going to, read up on Louie, see what's going on. The next thing you know, I'm listening to your music. I think I listened to Volume 3 is my favorite. Volume 1. I listened to a couple hits on 2, 4. Out of nowhere, a vodka club appears. My T-shirt, it gets too small. I don't know where the fuck my arm hair went. I'm throwing napkins into my daughter's crib. I'm like, let's get soaking wet. She looks at me. She goes, if he's not remixing Old McDonald, screw, bro.
That's what you have to do during these times. You have to create your own dance party inside your kid's room. That's how bad it's gotten right now with what's going on. But I'm glad I could bring a smile to your face in an otherwise bad time in everyone's life right now.
I put it on for my wife as she was working this morning. She's like, thank you. She's like, I remember all this. She's in the kitchen. We're watching my daughter. We're working from home. And she's like, I love the CD. So yes, you put a smile on a lot of people's faces globally.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, same here. You put it on today and it was just like, it brought you back to like such better times, right? It feels like, and like our youth and everything was a lot simpler than apparently compared to now. So
yes, we live in a different world right now. Only for a moment. I know we're going to get through this as a country if we all come together. So hopefully in a couple months this will be behind us and we can share some of those tequila and vodka and clubs in person like that.
Yes, yeah. Definitely. So first off, before we even get into it, how are you doing? How's your family? Are you everybody staying safe? Everybody good?
Everyone's doing good. I'm staying in. I mean, I'm only going out, once a week, once every 2 weeks, just to grab some essential, stuff to cook. Other than that, locked and loaded in my house and just, trying to weather the storm like everyone else out there is doing.
I know. I'm going out to the supermarket and I, like I said before, my wife is almost 8 months pregnant. I have a little one at home. I'm going out. I look like a Ghostbuster. I got fucking gloves on. I got a mask on. I'm like, I don't care. I'm just doing it. I got to do it,
Right. Exactly. And just steer, 6 feet away. I don't even come within 20 feet of anyone else. I see someone walking. I don't even go down an aisle. If there's someone down the aisle in the food and then in the shop, right? Or the Stop and Shop, Wegmans, wherever I go, I go down another aisle. I wait till that aisle is clear. I'm taking zero chances.
That's fucking funny because Rocky does the same thing without a virus going on in the world.
Yeah, I do that normally.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of introverts out there, right? So it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? So
I said even before this, I used to I go to great lengths to avoid people. So it's kind of right up my alley.
I'm used to being even when I'm doing my parties now, I'm in the DJ booth. I really don't like anyone hovering around me. So there may be 1,000 people in the club, but I'm by myself in the DJ booth. So I'm kind of used to this.
The way to do it.
Let me take it back, bro. So when did you get started? How did this all come about? For the people out there that are hearing this for the first time, how was Louie DeVito created? Talk to me.
Listen, I grew up. I had an older brother that was going out to clubs like Hunka Bunka.
In Sayreville.
Yeah, Hunka Bunka, which is actually Starland Ballroom. I was actually supposed to do a big show this Saturday night, April 4th.
Yes, I saw that.
Starland Ballroom, and we were almost sold out. A few weeks ago, and then we had to postpone it. We actually postponed it till October 3rd. So
okay, good.
Took no chances. 6 months. Make sure this thing's long behind us. But so I had an older brother. Started buying 12-inch, dance records. And his idea was like, hey, can you put these on a tape for me? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, sure. So we went out, bought a turntable. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, if you get me another turntable and a mixer, I think I can mix these two songs together. So literally, and the first turntable I had, it wasn't even like a Technics 1200, didn't have any pitch control. He bought me another turntable, little Radio Shack realistic mixer. And I just sat and I just practiced trying to mix. Now, the first few mixes didn't sound too good. I'll be the first one to admit it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I was really young at the time, but I just knew I had a passion for the music. And I'm like, I think this is something. Listen, my real dream was to be, a center fielder for the New York Yankees, but obviously I couldn't hit a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. So that fizzled away really quick. But my love of music, ever since I was little, was always there. I always said one day, I'm like, I want to be a DJ. And you know what? That's how it started. I know it sounds very, very simple. It took many years to actually learn to become a DJ. There was no YouTube growing up.
No.
I didn't have, I couldn't YouTube how to become a DJ, how to mix 2 records. I learned myself, by myself. Took a while, but it's always been a dream of mine. I always steal a line from the movie Goodfellas when Ray Liotta says, "Ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster." I always say, "Ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be a DJ." So
that's awesome.
I'm blessed and just really lucky. So many years later to still do something that I love ever since I was like. Probably in like the 7th, 8th grade.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always commend people that say that this is what I wanted to do and this is what I'm doing and I'm lucky enough to do it, because I know a lot of people that wake up every morning. They're putting food on the table, but they don't fucking love what they do, bro.
No, unfortunately, most people don't, and it's and I heard, I don't know, I'm stealing the saying. I wish I could say who actually said this, but probably something on social media. They said that the paycheck they give you is the bribe to give up on your dreams. So
that's true.
So I know a lot of people, some of my closest friends, whether medical fields, own construction companies, do extremely well for themselves, but they wake up, they're not happy to go to work every day. You know what I mean? And me still doing these parties now, and to actually get paid to do something you love. I mean, it's, you can't put a price tag on it, No. So it's a good thing to do something that you love, and then just reach so many tens of thousands and millions of people with my CDs and just bring joy and happiness to them. Still to this day, it means I made the right choice when I was younger to pursue this and actually make a living out of it. Where right now it's really tough in the club scene, and after this whole mess, it's going to take a while for this to get back on its feet. You know what I mean? And see a lot of guys. They got to work 9 to 5 during the week just to DJ on the weekends. And I'm still fortunate enough that I can just DJ on the weekends and make a living out of it.
Awesome.
So you had to be, if you said you were in 7th, 8th grade when you did it, you had to be the fucking man in your school. If you're DJing, you're a DJ doing parties, and what have you. Talk a little bit about that. Your friends probably thought you were like, a celebrity at that point.
Well, you know what? When I like I said, there was one guy that I went to high school with that I completely looked up to, and he tried to teach me like how to beat count, how to mix, and I just didn't understand it. Like he was talking French to me. I just, you know what I mean? Someone could drill it in your head just like putting a bat in your hand and saying, "Hey, hit a 95 mile per hour pitch." I mean, you either can do it or you can't. It's very tough to teach it. So, through high school and stuff, like I said, just listening to this when there was Hot 103 used to do those Saturday Night Live dance parties. I used to record them and listen to how the guy was mixing, go out to clubs underage and sneak in the DJ booth. Down at Temptations, down at the Jersey Shore.
Oh, yeah.
And this was even before, this was Franco Iammello, like Scott Blackwell, Glenn Fisher, talking about like late 80s, early 90s. And, Franco Iammello used to let me up in the DJ booth, and I would just sit there for 4 hours and just watch him mix, stand in the corner and just try and like pick up on like how he mixed stuff. And then finally it just one day I was able to mix. I don't know how. One day I'll never forget my first mix. I was like, I didn't go off beat and I mixed 2 songs together. I think I played it for everyone I knew. I'm like, listen, I actually mixed those 2 songs together. So it was like a life-changing moment for me.
Yeah.
And but I never got into doing like the private parties. You know what I mean? Like I was straight up a bedroom DJ. You know what I mean? And my first club gig was actually down in Seaside Heights. I actually brought every record I own. Now I bring a little USB stick that has, 20,000 songs.
Yeah.
Back then I probably had 300-400 records, and I brought crates.
You were digging in the crates.
Literally. And I would bring every record that I owned to the gig because I was like, oh my God, what happens if I don't have this record? Like, so I literally took me an hour to carry all the crates in and carry them back out at night. Now, technology, that's one good thing. Put a USB in my pocket. I show up. I'm like, I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
If the night starts at 10 o'clock, I show up at 9:55 and I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? So, getting back to the whole thing, starting with vinyl, completely different, and learning to craft yourself. And I'm all for the YouTube and the all the stuff you can teach yourself now, but you really had to teach yourself. There was no help back then. I literally had to go out every Friday and Saturday night to a club and beg them to let me up in the booth to watch these guys spin, to learn. It wasn't like just going on YouTube from your phone at 11 o'clock at night and watching videos all night. And the next day a DJ is born. It took years for that to happen for me.
There must have been some good stories though with that, going to clubs younger and just looking at all these DJs and just checking their shit out and just.
Oh yeah. And they were on this, I was so and I was really, wasn't a big drinker when I was younger, but as the DJ years piled on, the drink piled on.
Gotcha.
But they would make me make promises. You can't drink. You have to stay in the booth. Like, that's it. You can't even go out in the crowd, because I'm underage.
Yeah.
So, really appreciative to experience that at a young age and see, wow, like, this is what I want to do. I want to play music. I want people to dance. And it's the best feeling. It's the best feeling in the world, watching people. And still to this day, to look out to a crowded room and know people are dancing from what I'm spinning. I mean, it's a great feeling,
Rocco and I, we know a tiny, and I say a fraction of that. We're in a band together, and we've played for about 20 years. So we know that we've been playing the tri-state area,
Right.
here and there. And then there's no feeling that when you start playing and somebody's like bopping, we're a little heavy music, but when they start bopping, they're into the shit. It's one of the greatest feelings being on stage. So we could definitely, relate somewhat to that, Yeah.
And then it's also, and still to this day, that I still get like, I don't want to say nervous, but a big show, I still get a little butterflies in my stomach. Like, you know what I mean? Like 2,000 people, it's all in ballroom. Like, you look up and like, wow. Like, they're here for me. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, it's a funny thing, because the first time I went to Ibiza in Spain, and I went there for 3 summers in a row, to Pasha, I've never drank DJ'd in my life before. So it's summer 2007. There's 4,000 people in the room. And I'm like, wow, this is like one of the biggest gigs that I've ever done to that point. And one of my friends was like, maybe you should have a drink just to loosen up. And I'm like, you know what? I go, and even the guy Steve who ran Pasha Recordings at the time was like, you know what? Maybe have a drink or two just to loosen up, because people want to look up to the DJ booth and they want to see you have a good time. They're like, you're a great DJ, but sometimes I get into that realm of maybe being a little too serious because you're so worried about the next song. I'm worried about every mix being perfect. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll have a drink or two. Well, with that being said, a bottle of vodka later, I was out of my mind in the booth, literally jumping up on top of the decks. Like, I came out of my shell in such a big way. And I was like, wow. And the scary thing is, the next morning, I didn't even remember the night. I don't remember what I played. I don't remember anything. And there was no video. There was no nothing. 2007, I didn't even have an iPhone yet. iPhones were just coming out, so you didn't have that. And I'm like, man, did I do good? Did I do good or not? And the next day, everyone's like, and they're talking about Pasha, like David Guetta, Murillo, some of the biggest Carl Cox, biggest DJs in the world playing. They're like, you killed it. They're like, it was one of the best nights we've ever had in our history. Awesome. The energy you played with. I'm like, fuck, excuse my language. I don't know if we can curse on this, but
no.
Yeah.
The podcast is called Not These Two Fucking Guys. You're good.
All right. So there we go. So I was like, man, I'm like, just getting praise from everyone, but I didn't remember the night.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I'm like, one of the best nights of my life, and I didn't remember it. So, it was kind of scary because I was like, you know what? Like, did I mess up? Everyone's like, you killed it. So the trick was, when I came back from that, I said, maybe I should keep drinking when I'm spinning. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nights where, all right, you don't want to drink too much because, like, you don't want to mess up. You know what I mean? But I think so many people have seen me, my friends especially, they're like, I don't care. They're like, you were so drunk last night, you couldn't even talk, but you didn't mess up one mix. Like, you were, and I was like, I guess 20 years of doing something you love, my body, I almost go into like an autopilot.
Yeah.
You know what I
mean? Muscle memory.
And it's crazy because I've had some nights where I wake up and I'm like, I don't even remember DJing. And people are like, you killed it last night. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, that's a scary thing,
We kind of go through the same thing being in a band where it's, you try to find that happy medium or the magic number of how many drinks you should have before you play.
Yeah.
Because we'll play some sets. I'm like, wait, we play that song? Oh yeah, we played that song, didn't we?
Right.
I hope I sang over it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's scary. And that's the biggest fear is like, you're like, man, did I play this song yet? Or did I just play? You lose, you know what I mean? So, it's kind of fun. You know what I mean? You got to try and guess, what song you just played or what you should play next. But, alcohol is, it's fun. But like you said, it's a slippery slope of knowing how much to drink before you go on or while you're performing. So either way, it's I've had some fun with some drinks in the DJ.
Where did you get into opening up Elastic Records?
Elastic, yes.
So Elastic Records, I believe, your first
Elastic
compilation?
Recordings.
Elastic Recordings, I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, at the time, I was selling mixtapes at the time, like every other DJ was.
Okay.
Then I got into selling mixed CDs, selling them in mom and pop record stores. And I just said to myself, like, you know what? Obviously.
All local, right?
All local.
Yeah, right.
Through New York, New Jersey,
Gotcha.
Staten Island, Brooklyn, Long Island.
All right.
And, I said, you know what? I should really, because they were selling really well, selling at friggin' like the 18th Avenue Feast in Brooklyn, even at the Meadowlands Fair. When they used to do the I know they still do it, but, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do this on a bigger scale. You know what I mean? Like license, some of these biggest songs, remix some of these records, and really, you know what I mean? That's what I got to lose. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I gave it a shot.
Gotcha.
So
you gave it more than a fucking shot. I'll tell you that much.
But you know what it is? The guy, one of the guys who was doing my graphic designer, he came up with the idea. It's like, hey, let's start a record label. You put out your stuff. And he was more like trance and like more hardcore stuff than I was doing. I did some underground stuff, but I always tell people NYC Underground Party, New York City, because obviously I'm from New York City. But I always tell people underground, there really wasn't anything underground about it. Some songs are underground, but some songs were, Melanie Say I Turn to You was she's a Spice Girl. You know what I mean? It was just a combination. I think that's what struck a lot of people is I wasn't honing in on one type of sound. It had vocal music. It had stuff that was played in Sound Factor or Twilo or Exit. But then it also had a song like DJ Sammy, Heaven, that was on Z100. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what I appealed to a lot of people because it wasn't just, underground music. And it wasn't just pop music. It was a combination. And that's even still to this day. When I play live, I play a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? It's not just straight up, let's say Chus and Sabalos or Boris or Victor Calderon. But then it's also not as commercial as maybe an Afrojack with David Guetta. It's everything. You know what I mean? Especially if I'm drinking, you never know. I don't even know what I'm going to play. So, it's like, and, even all kidding aside, even when I'm not drinking or don't even touch a drink, people ask me, what are you going to play tonight? I'm like, I have no idea. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, when the doors open, I'll stop playing and then I'll let the crowd dictate which way I'm going. Maybe the crowd wants to hear, I start playing some underground tracks, a woman beat their men type record. They're not feeling it. Maybe I got to play a little more commercial. Or maybe if I'm playing too commercial, they want to hear more underground or more, stuff that doesn't have vocals. So that's a testament of a great DJ. You can't plan your sets. You know what I mean? You got to go out there, just wing it. And that's what I do. And that's what keeps it fun and exciting for me. It's not rehearsed. I have no clue. Like, there's certain songs I'm like, all right, I want to play this. But still, at the end of the night, people are like, oh, I can't believe you didn't play this. I'm like, I got 20,000 songs with me. The night is 5 hours. How many songs do you think I could play in 5 hours? You know what I mean? If you could play 100 songs in 5 hours, that's a lot. 120 songs. Meanwhile, there's 9,000 other songs that I could have played. So that's what keeps it fresh for me,
How do you feel the night as far as, you want to know what? That song sucked that I just played. How do I turn this around? Like, I could be at a wedding and be like, you want to know what? Fuck this. I'm going to the dessert table. I don't need to hear this guy.
Right.
But you're all, there's like, a lot of people there that are drinking, expecting a good time. How do you turn it around?
A lot of people like to say DJ should bring people on a roller coaster up and down. My thing is, I want that roller coaster. I want it peaking. I want every record to be better than the last. And I could just sense it. Like sometimes I drop a record and if everyone doesn't have their hands in the air, or if the girls aren't singing every word, I'm like, fuck. Yeah. You know what I mean? But then I get right out of that record. I'm like, all right, I need to follow it up with something that's going to crush this last record. You know what I mean? But every record is that how it goes for 5-6 straight hours. And if I'm playing 8 hours, that's how it goes for 8 hours. There is no break. You know what I mean? Like I'm constantly thinking about what am I going to play next? So that's why a lot of people like, oh, you know what? It's very easy up there. You look like you're having the time of your life. I mean, I am having the time of my life.
But of course.
There's a lot of thought going into every song that's being played. There's a thought process behind it. Mm-hmm. So it's, and sometimes you play something. Listen, I've never cleared a dance for my life, but sometimes you look up and like, oh man, you could just see that you brought the crowd down. But you know what? So my thing is, if I brought them down, now I'm going to bring them up even higher with the next record and higher than that after the next record. So, and that's why all these parties I do now, I don't have openers. I play open to close. If the club opens at 9, I play from 9 to 3. If it opens at 10, I play 10 to 4 or 9 to 4. So that way, you know, I don't have to worry about someone else playing something I wanted to play or them not setting the room up right. So, you know, and these people come out early. I mean, they love the music, and it gives me that 5-6 hours. At least now I could play 150 songs, as opposed to if I was only doing a 2-3 hour set. Now you're talking about maybe only playing 50 songs or 60 songs.
Gotcha.
And that's a testament to, you know, like you said, still to this day, it'd be very easy for you to say, okay, I have these songs. I'm going to play these songs. This is what works. And I'm just going to like pretty much do that every single time. But no, you actually still love what you do. So you want to make it up on the fly, and you want to see how the crowd responds. And I think that's the key to any type of live music.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of guys, the really big guys, I'm talking about, you know, let's say the Tiestos and someone like that, international guys, they'll almost play that same set. I mean, they're going from city to city. So I get it. It's a different crowd, but that would take the fun out of it for me. If I knew exactly what I was playing, it would be boring for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It becomes robotic.
Yes. That's what makes it exciting for me, is that I have no idea what I'm playing. You know, come 9 o'clock, I just start playing. And you know what I mean? And there's no holding back a record. You know, I was at Society in Lyndhurst not too long ago, in January, actually. And, you know, place opened up at 9 o'clock. By 10:30, that place was at capacity. And I'm playing records at 10:30 that most guys wouldn't play until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm playing them at 10:30. Even one of my friends who's a DJ said to me, like, it's crazy that you're playing this record at 10:30. You know, this is a peak hour record. I'm like, yeah, but the room's packed right now. Yeah. So the whole night's peak hour to me. You know what I mean? But like you said, it's you can't plan what you play. It's just, you know, when I was first starting out in one of the first clubs I played at, the owner tried to give me a playlist of like what to play. And I think back at that, I'm like, wow, like if someone gave me a playlist now, I don't know if I would just rip it up or laugh at them or just walk out of the club. Yeah. You know, probably a combination of the three. I'd probably rip it up, you know, and then laugh and then walk out of the club. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it looks good on paper, but you know, it's a fluid situation, you know, it's, you know, the night changes, you know, from 10:30 to 11:30, who knows? I mean, the crowd, you know, could have got a little more packed, or, you know, who's going to the bar to get a drink, you know, maybe there's more girls on the dance floor now, but there's a lot to look at, and you got to look past the dance floor. It's easy to play for the dance floor, but what I always look at is when I look around the bars, I want people moving. I don't care if you're on the other side of the club and you could barely see me. I want your hands up. So I want to play. I want that whole room, you know, to be vibing and with their hands up. So it's like I said, it's fun when you love what you do. Every night, you know, is a new adventure.
I love the fire. I love they have that still now after all these years. You know, I would need 3 more podcasts to start going over this. So I'm just going to go over this quickly, bro.
Okay.
New York City Underground Party 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're most known for 3. Which in 2000, 2001, Rocco, back me up. You couldn't go to a shore house in Belmar, Point Pleasant, Seaside Heights, Manasquan, with hearing that CD, or that CD is on the fucking floor of someone's fucking car. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh my God.
That CD for me, for a lot of people, was one of the biggest CD, and we're metalheads kind of almost, and we're rock guys. Right. That CD is one of the all-time greatest club CDs. Talk to me about, like, where did you come up with all the underground parties, bro?
Well, it's funny you say that, you guys, you know, metal guys. One of the biggest compliments that I read still to this day is that people who don't even like dance music say, they're like, but I love Louie DeVito. I love it.
Yep, that's 100%.
And I say that's the ultimate compliment that people, and I see still to this day, people like, I love rock. I love this. I love that. But I'm not even a dance music fan, but I love Louie DeVito. I love his CDs. Yeah. And that's reaching, talking about outside the box. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, of course, the people who love dance music are going to love it. But when you're reaching outside of that, that's when you know you're doing something right. You know, so that was always the ultimate compliment when I would see people, or people come out to my shows. Like, I'm not even into clubs or club music, but for some reason, I love you. I love the way you spin. I love what you play. But so let me start with the whole New York City Underground Party, because originally the title for the CD was going to be called A Night on Ecstasy.
Okay.
And this is coming from a guy, and I know this is to your listeners and maybe even to you guys. You may find it hard to believe. I've never done ecstasy, and I've never done a drug in my life.
Gotcha.
All right. And I don't judge people. Hey, you want to party? Hey, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? As long as you're not hurting someone else, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, of
and
course.
ecstasy at the time, 1999 obviously was a really big thing for dropping some hate. So no judgment here. And my lawyer at the time was like, he's like, are you fucking out of your mind? He goes, you can't call it a night on ecstasy. He goes, no store's going to carry that. He goes, you just can't do it. So I'm like, all right, that was a cool idea. Yeah. And I don't know how I just came up with, just literally popped in my head, New York City Underground Party. I don't know how I came up with that name. I said, you know what? It's New York City. This music, some of it was underground. It was a cool name. Yeah. And even so here I am, I come out with volume 1. I have no distribution deal. I'm literally selling these out of my trunk, going to mom and pop record stores. So Short Hills Mall, which I'm sure you guys know of, in Short Hills, New Jersey, there was an FYE. An FYE of Coconuts. I think it was an FYE, for-year entertainment. So it was a Saturday afternoon. This is like friggin' October 1999. I go into the FYE and I have the CD with me, and I go to the store manager and I ask him, I said, hey, would you guys be interested in selling this CD? The manager picked up the CD and looked at it, and he's like, where the hell did you get this? And I looked at him, I'm like, why? He goes, because we've gotten over 100 phone calls this week, people asking for some underground CD by this Louie DeVito guy. He goes, and I'm calling up it was owned by Trans World Entertainment. They owned all the FYE and Coconuts at 1,000 stores throughout the country. Yeah. And I'm calling up my boss saying, how do we get the CD? Because I've literally had 100 phone calls. And the reason why they had 100 calls on this, because my idea was, I printed up 5,000. So my goal was to sell 5,000 CDs to start with. That was it, 5,000. I stacked them up in my parents' garage, all right, all the boxes. And I'm like, trying to sell them in the mom and pop. Month goes by. I sold maybe 200-300 in a month. And I'm like, man, maybe I made a big mistake here. I printed up 5,000 of these. I only sold about 300 in a month. Yeah. I go, I'm going to have a lot of friggin', what's that?
Coasters.
Coasters, yeah. I'm going to have a lot of coasters. I'm going to give my friends coasters to put their drinks on. Yeah. So I had the idea. I'm like, how am I going to get people to know about this CD? So I called up KTU, 103.5, and I said, I want to advertise on your radio station. So they put me up in touch with one of the sales reps. They're like, oh, you need a commercial producer. So then I had the idea, this guy, Eugene Introna, who owned Chicago, Soundgarden, and Rise in Lodi.
Oh, many of
fucking
nights.
Soundgarden, man.
And he was the original owner of Temptations.
Okay.
And his voice was, he had that movie trailer voice, very deep, very penetrating. I told him, I said, listen, I used to advertise the nightclubs on KTU. I said, instead of advertising a nightclub, I want you to advertise my CD. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to give you music. We're going to play little clips of it. We don't got to name who the artists are because it's irrelevant. Because people just want to know what the music is. They don't care who sings it. Yeah. They don't care who made it. They just like the little riffs. Give them 5 seconds of the song. I said, we're going to advertise on KTU. He's like, all right. Overnights from midnight to 5 in the morning, which were at the time $25 to advertise to get a 60-second commercial.
Jesus $25. Christ.
So now it's so cheap for a reason, because when you advertise who's a hair salon or Burger King or whatever, it's not going to advertise at 3 in the morning on a Saturday night. But 3 in the morning on a Saturday night, that's when my crowd is either coming home or going out to an after hours party. You know what I mean? So I'm going to advertise. They were only $20 a spot. I bought 50 of them. with no distribution. Going out there. So now, fast forward to me going to that Short Hills Mall. The reason why people are calling is because I'm advertising for like that whole weekend, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. In the morning till 3-4 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So people are going to their local record store, calling up saying, hey, you got this Louie DeVito CD. So the guy takes a copy of the CD. He goes, give me your number. I'm going to have someone call you on Monday morning. Monday morning, I get a phone call from Trans World Entertainment, which owns FYE and Coconuts, and said, we want to order 1,000 of your CD. Beautiful. 1,000. Now, mind you, I sold about 300 in the whole month prior to that. This company wants to order 1,000. And I'm like, holy fuck, I think I'm on to something here. Uh-huh. But we can't buy. Yeah, we can't buy from you directly. You need to go through a distributor. So they put me in touch with Music Rama, which is a distributor out in Long Island City. I called them up, set up a meeting. That next Tuesday, drove out there, and they took 1,000 copies of the CD. And then, as they say, the rest was history. Once Trans World Entertainment took it, then Best Buy came on board, Sam Goody, Virgin Megastore, and then that was it. And then my first CD, which my goal was to sell 5,000, I sold 60,000. So Jesus I exceeded Christ. It just a little.
A little bit,
right?
Yeah. So I could say, I mean, as Archie said before, we got into you volume 3, volume 4-ish. And again, it's just fun music. Like it's the way you put songs together, the way, it just fit the time. It reminds us of like good times going out to the club. It was really the soundtrack basically of us growing up. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the thing is, when you were asking me like how volume 3 came about, well, obviously, volume 1 comes out. So I'm like, all right, now I'm going to do a volume 2. And the funny thing is I wasn't going to put my name on volume 1. I was only going to put DJ Louie because that's what everyone knew me when I was doing all the mixed CDs and the mixed tapes. But then I was like, if this thing doesn't work out, I don't want my name to be associated with it. You know what I mean? And then I was like, but you know what? If this takes off, I want everyone to know who I am. Yeah. So I took the word DJ out because that always, still to this day, if you notice any of my club events or any flyers, I don't use the word DJ. And everyone's like, oh, you should put DJ. I'm like, listen, if you don't know who I am or that I'm a DJ, you shouldn't be coming to my parties. Yeah. All right? So take DJ out in front of my name, please. If you don't know who Louie DeVito is, chances are you're not coming out to my event anyway.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So volume 1 comes out. And volume 2, I sold 5,000 copies of volume 2 the first week. Now, that was my goal of all volume 1. I sold 5,000 the first week. And I went up selling 140,000 of volume 2. So now you're talking about volume 3. And I'm like, well, volume 3 is really, I'm like, I got to crush volume 1 and volume 2. So at that time, Zombie Nation, Castles in the Sky, Derb, those records weren't even being played yet in America. These were imports. They were playing in Germany, the UK. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget. Dive in the Pool. Okay, I was at, and I know you guys are Jersey guys, but there was a club called Neptune's Beach Club in the Hamptons. All right.
Okay.
It was kind of like a surf club. I'm sure you guys been to surf club.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. It's a surf club.
Heard of it?
Yeah. Yeah, heard of it. Yeah, you probably had a drink there too, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Listen, if I had all the money back I played at surf club, forget about it. I'd have my own private jet right now. Yeah. All right. The money I spent there going there every Sunday for about 20 years. All right. Yeah. I mean, just crazy good times. But Neptune's was the Long Island version of surf club. Okay. But it was all outdoors. All right. Like the inside was very small, where Surf Club was more indoors and had a little outside. Yep. Neptune's was one huge deck, just insanity. Mm-hmm. So the DJ there, I remember it was 4th of July weekend, summer 2000. I actually had a house out in the Hamptons for 3 straight summers. Me and my friends, we did the opposite. I mean, I lived in Jersey, but we would trek all the way to the Hamptons instead of going down the shore. So the DJ played Dive in the Pool. And literally when it kicked in, the whole deck was bouncing because people were jumping up and down. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, this is volume 3. Yeah. I did research. Derb, Johnny Vicious, who's a good friend of mine, he was playing at Exit. He played Derb. I'm down on the dance floor. And that dropped in. I literally ran to the DJ booth, jumped into the DJ booth. And I'm like, bro, what is this? He showed me the record. That Monday morning, my lawyer was on the phone with the label to license it because I knew. Well, that was actually for volume 4 Derb. But that's how I did my research. And same thing when I played a record, when I was playing at all these big clubs, whether it be Webster Hall or wherever, I knew when I played a record, the first time I dropped it, the place erupted. I'm like, this is going on my next CD. It's like, I would say 2,000 people can't be wrong. You're playing a record and 2,000 people are jumping up and down to it. I'm like, this is going on my next record. Yeah. And I think that's how I beat the punch to a lot of these major record labels. I mean, my friends were telling me who worked for Universal, for Sony, they would have meetings about me. They're like, how is this guy, this no-name DJ, independent little record label, outselling us? We have unlimited resources. I'm like, and I used to tell them, because they don't have the fucking ear. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. They're looking at some stupid Billboard chart and going by, what's selling this week or what's charting this week on the club charts. I'm out in the clubs every weekend. I'm DJing. My friends are DJs, and I'm going out to all these spots And I'm seeing these records, these people reacting. And because I didn't have 50 people to answer to, it was me, myself, and I called my lawyer the next day, license this record. It's going on my next CD. And 2-3 months later, that next volume was out. You know, while these other record labels are still trying to figure out, you know, which way the friggin' sun is setting, I'm over there. I'm already got the next CD out. So that's how, you know, with the volume.
So talk about that real quick. I'm sorry to cut you off. Talk about that real quick about licensing a record. I find that very interesting. So like, what's involved with that? Obviously, the artist has the record, and you say, "Hey, I want to put this out for publication." You know, what happens?
Well, the thing is, like I said, getting back to those imports, you know, the Castles in the Sky, the Derbs, you know, Spenta La Stella's, Zombie Nation, you know, all it is like everyone wants their records in America. Everyone wants to be in America. You know, other parts of the country, the world always look to America like, oh, we want this music out in the United States. You know, we want this to be big in the U.S. So just no different. Hey, my lawyer would call up record label and say, listen, we want to license this record. We want to use it, you know, for a compilation. We pay them, you know, used to be small advances. Then when I started selling millions of CDs, everyone wanted to rate me and you know.
They wanted a bigger cut after that.
Yeah. You know, so it went from, just put it this way, volume 1, the whole CD cost me $12,000 to license the music. Okay. By the time it got up to volume 5, it cost me $250,000 to license the music.
Yikes.
You know, I bet you in reverse, I bet you like some of these artists came out and would say, I hope Louie DeVito picks me up or somebody picks me up.
Yeah, listen, there's some guys out there, some producers and some guys that they were on like a volume 3 or volume 4, volume 5. I know guys who bought their houses off the royalties they made.
Get the fuck out.
You know, from being on some of these compilations, or at least the down payments on the house. I mean, you know, but still, you know what I mean? So a lot of people, you know, a lot of people made a lot of money from those CDs selling, you know, as well as they did. But like I said, it was just, you know, and there was times I couldn't get a record. I remember there was a guy, Frankie Blue. He was the head of KTU, and I was trying to license Whitney Houston. They wouldn't, Epic Records wouldn't, Arista Records, I should say, wouldn't give me the Whitney Houston. And Frankie Blue actually had my back and actually told the label, you know, if you don't license the record to Louie DeVito, I'm not going to play it on KTU. Just to show you that kind of people I had in my corner at the time, you know, because they knew how much it could help. Having one of those songs on my, obviously a Whitney Houston would help me sell through the roof, but you know, then there's some records out there that were no-name records, you know, that I licensed directly, like you said, straight from the producer. You know what I mean? Say, here, you know what? I'm going to give you $1,000. You know, you're going to get, you know, a percentage of sales, you know, and they walk away with, you know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
So now during this stint of the undergrounds, you branch off. I see. If there's like, if you look at this, like almost like a tree, we got, correct if I'm wrong, Dance Factory.
Yep.
Like 4 levels.
Yep. There was Dance Divas. And I actually did an Ultra Dance record, which is actually, and the reason I did the Ultra Dance, my distributor wasn't happy with me. They're like, why are you going to do this? I'm like, Ultra Records is very big on the West Coast. I sold everywhere, but obviously New York's Underground Party, the tri-state area is where I sold half my CDs.
Gotcha.
As I'm doing this to grow my brand, to do something with Ultra, to go out and do it on the West Coast, you know, because they're bigger on the West Coast. You know, Dance Divas, deeper and harder, because I was trying to not just beat the New York City Underground Party brand into the ground. You know, so that's why, you know, the Dance Factory, a little bit more commercial. The Dance Divas was all, you know, female vocal records. So that's where, you know, for me to grow, instead of like that now that I call music, whatever that brand is, I think they're I don't know what number they're up to. I think they still do it, believe it or not. But so that's why I veered off and came up with the Dance Factories, came up with the Dance Divas, Deeper and Harders. I did some Pasha CDs. I was just trying to grow the brand, you know?
Now with the Pasha CDs, you got to play. Now, I think there's New York, Rio, Ibiza. Did you do the whole circuit?
Yeah, you know what? I did New York. I did Ibiza. There was one in Barcelona. There was one in St. Petersburg, Russia. I actually went to Russia.
Oh,
yeah!
Wow, all right.
And that was surreal.
Yeah.
This place literally reminded me of DJs. It was on the beach. It was on the Baltic Sea. The sand was black. I mean, it took me like a day and a half to get there. I had to take 2 flights. Then it was a 2.5 hour car drive. I'll never forget that trip. It was the best trip of my life, and it was also the worst trip of my life because how much traveling time just to go out there to spin. I only spun like 2-3 hours that night. You know, I was like, wow, man, I literally traveled almost like 2 days to get here to play for like 3 hours, you know? So it was, but it was like so surreal, like being like, you don't realize I'm like 10,000 miles from home right now. You know what I mean? But like once you're in the DJ booth and the women in Russia, I mean, were beyond gorgeous. They're all models. I'm like, if these girls were in New York City, these girls would be making $10,000 a friggin' shoot. That's how gorgeous. Really? You know, and the gorgeous the women were there. But so surreal. And then it was live broadcast on the MTV out there. And it was like, wow, like, am I really in St. Petersburg, Russia? Like, it's just insane to travel that far to DJ.
Talk to me about spinning in Belmar DJs versus spinning on Ibiza. Like, there has to be a difference.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? I actually did DJs 2 summers ago. Well, actually, it'd be 3 summers ago. Now, was it 17 or 18? I forgot. It was the Hunka Bunka reunion classics night. And that night, complete blur. I still look at the videos. I'm like, I don't even remember playing that song, you know? But DJs to me is probably one of the best clubs I ever spun at. Now, am I going to compare it to spinning in Ibiza? I mean, of course not. Ibiza, it's just a completely different. You got people from all around the world there. You know, you got people from Italy, from Spain, from, you know, coming from the UK. It's like a melting pot. You know what I mean? But like once I'm in the DJ booth, I don't want to say it's all the same, but it kind of is. Like once I'm playing the music and the crowd is everyone's hands in the air, they're going drunk. Like I said, being in St. Petersburg in Russia, I felt like I was in DJs. Like I'm playing music and people are going crazy. The only difference was no one spoke English. You know what I mean? But I tell you what, after spinning at DJs for 2 hours, you could barely, everyone's slurring their words anyway. So I guess it's the same difference, right?
A couple of bros, a couple of
exactly. You know,
my drink.
I would say Arch. Every time we went, DJs was a blur for us as well. It didn't matter.
I think that's the goal. If you don't walk out of DJs not remembering the night, I mean, then you know why'd you even go there, right?
Could you say like Miami Beach, Vegas, Jersey Shore, Spain, like are the difference of you spinning? You have to read the crowd differently each time, you know?
Yes, and it goes back to the same thing. I have no idea. I mean, obviously, I have no idea what I'm playing, whether I'm going to Spain or I'm going to DJs in Belmar or if I'm going to Vegas or a Crowbar in Chicago that I used to play at a lot. You know, same thing. You know, just be prepared. You just got to feed off the crowd. Whether it doesn't matter, you know, where you are. It's still the same principles are applied. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
You got to be able to read a room, basically.
1,000%. 1,000%, you know, and now that, you know, the style of DJing now, a lot of guys, open format, you know, mashup guys, if you want to use that word, laptop guys, you know, these guys run through records, you know, they just play the complete hook of the record, whether it's 10 seconds long, 30 seconds drop, keep that energy level up. And to me, that goes against everything about building, you know, playing the 6 hours. Those guys probably couldn't play 6-8 hour sets. You know what I mean? You know, they go in and out as quick as they can. To me, that's the complete opposite of what I do with house music and building up, you know, letting a record breathe. I mean, you know, there's records that I have that are, you know, that Hex Hector produced 12, 13 minutes, Jonathan Peters, you know what I mean? Those open format guys, they play about 40 records in 12 minutes. You know what I mean? So it's a different mindset. And with these parties that I'm recreating now, that's why I like playing the longest sets, because you don't have to worry about getting out of a record after so quickly. Most people, you know, this crowd, they want to hear the record. They want to hear the build. The record is a record in itself with the builds and drops. You know what I mean? So that's something we're getting back to earlier. If a record's not working, sometimes I'll mix out of it quicker than I wanted to. If I see like, you know what, I hit a little low, I need to get out of this record. But, you know, 90% of the time, the records I play, the crowd is feeling it, and I let them play and I let them absorb the record. You know what I mean? And I learned that from like Eric Murillo. Murillo is a type of DJ that everyone loves, and Carl Cox, that they let the records breathe a little, where most of the guys today, especially the younger guys, they don't. You know what I mean? But that's just how they were taught to spin. They were taught like instant gratification, just like us with social media, right? We post a picture. What do we look at? We want to see the likes coming in.
Yep.
We post a video. We want to see the views coming in. You know, you post a new podcast. You want to see, all right, how many listeners, how many downloads did we get? Who's listening? You know, it's instant gratification. That's just, even with Netflix now. You know, we binge watch like Ozark. I'm a big Ozark fan. And season 3 came out Friday night. Well, obviously now we're in this lockdown, but between Friday night and Saturday, I banged out the new season. I watched 10 hours of it in 2 days. You know what I mean? So society has changed, but I think when it comes to music, especially the music I play and true house music and techno and tech house, it's all about the drops. It's all about the buildups. You don't need to play 50 or 60 songs in an hour. You know what I mean? You could play 15 songs in an hour and the crowd still appreciates it because the song in itself goes on a little bit of a journey.
Yeah. There's 2 songs that just for me personally, I associate you with. One is the Mel C one, and I'm sure everybody comes up to you and is just
I turn to you 100%. I got a great story about me licensing that, but go ahead. What's the next song? I know what the next song is. The final chapter.
All right. Then there could be 3 songs, but
okay,
there's a certain song. There's a third song, but I could be like almost like an 18-year-old girl going, "Oh my God, I Turn to You" was one of my favorite songs. That was my song of the summer. But no. All right. The final chapter, obviously. In fact, the story that I have, the final chapter, I learned it on guitar, and I'm playing it in my bedroom. And I'm like, I love this fucking riff. Yeah. Anyway, the song is. Now I told you Rocco and I are rock guys, you know, whatever. Right. And I'm listening to the radio. I can't remember what year this was. I'm listening to the radio, and I'm like, this fucking dude's voice sounds so familiar. I like this band though, Rev Theory. I'm like, Rev Theory, give me a hell, give me a yeah. I'm like, I fucking like, but he sounds so fucking familiar. So the day went on. You know what? I gotta look this guy's name up. I look him up. I go, Rock, I saw this guy at Soundgarden. He's Rich Luzzy. Without You. I'm like, bro, that song, one of the biggest club songs at the Jersey Shore that I experienced. How are you associated with it as far as?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, the show at Starland Ballroom this Saturday night was going to have Rich Luzzy performing with that.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He was coming to do this one show. I've been asking him for like the last 3 years. Rich, you got to come out and do a show. You got to come out. He's like, no. Finally, he said, you know what? I'm going to do one show only, you know, because obviously he's got the Rev Theory. He's a rock guy. And listen, this show's still going to happen. It's going to be October 3rd. But Without You, that was Extreme Records, actually a label in North Jersey, Dave Mondo Music. It was actually his record label.
Okay.
That had that record. And talk about licensing. I think I paid $30,000 to license that record. I paid either $30,000 or $40,000. It was I get confused, but it was either it was definitely $30,000. It could have been $40,000, but it was minimum $30,000 to license that record because it was a monster. I am like, you know what? I need this record on my CD. It was on 4.
4, right? Volume 4.
4, yeah.
Volume 4. But Without You. And people still to this day, and that's a long record too. That the original mix of that, 10 or 11 minutes. It took like almost 3 minutes just for the vocal to come in. You know? People 3 minutes, people, you know, they would lose their minds waiting. 3 records on new songs now. You know, that's, you know, less Cascade or Axwell or Sebastian Grosser produced, you know, Chucky. They're 3 minutes total. This record took 3 minutes just for the vocal to come in, you know?
But that underscores what you said about the build. Like that song classically is the fucking build. Yeah. And then when the vocals come in, it's like.
That's right. When that vocal comes in, I mean, he's got that deep voice. He's got a great voice. And you got to hear a new rock song that he did that I actually may be involved in. He's got a great voice. Like people don't realize how great of a voice he has. And when he comes in on the record, but like you said, it's that anticipation. It's that build-up. You know what I mean? Of 3 minutes of when it comes in, you know, with those keys, it's just, you know, it's an anthem. It's one of, like I said, it's one of the biggest records that I ever had on any of my CDs. But, you know, and a lot of people, and it's even crazy now when I play and I see girls coming up to me, 23, 25, 22, like in their 20s. I'm like, these girls were barely born when my first CD came out, you know, and like my older sister or my mom, my dad had your CDs. And it's like, wow. It's crazy. And I've actually had people come out with their mom and dads come out with their kids to my shows. And I'm like, man, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm like, that you're out, your mom is here. You know what I mean? So it's a good feeling though. But, you know, people appreciate, you know, when you appreciate a song, I believe you want to hear the whole thing. You don't want to hear, you know what I mean? Someone comes in with him saying, you're the one that I love and I can't go on without you. And that's it. Who just wants to hear that? You want that song tells a story and you want to hear the whole story. You know what I mean? So
there's definitely an art to what you do.
Oh, 1,000%.
No doubt about it.
1,000%, you know? And like I said, I'm not taking away from any of the open format mashup guys who do that. You know, the crowds, the bars they're playing, you know, there's not 2,000 people in the room. You know, you're playing a smaller club. It's more of a, you know, let me see how many songs I can run through in the next 2 hours. Yeah. You know, there's a time and a place for that. But the venues I play, whether it's the Starland Ballroom, you know, I do House of Independence, which is actually a rock spot in Asbury. You know, they book all rock people. I'm like the only, you know, house music person they actually allow to come in there. And
nice.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, you know, but that's another venue. A lot of people come up to me and they're like, we stumbled in here and they're like, yeah, we love this friggin' guy. And they're straight up rockers. You know what I mean? So it's a good feeling to reach everyone, you know?
On a technical side, is there any type of, like, when you're mixing a song to song, when you know, like, I'm assuming the BPM's the same and we're going from one song to another, is there are you adding anything, any elements to anything as far as with a transition, with any type of, I don't know, effects, beats, any type of shit?
Effects 100%. You know what I mean? But I'm a mix enthusiast. You know, I try and ride mixes as long as I can. Sometimes I have two songs playing for 2 minutes together, and you may not even know it. You know what I mean? That's how much, you know, the art of mixing to me has actually gotten really lost with laptops now. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of great guys out there, but most guys just want to go right in, like you said, go from hook to hook to hook as quick as they can. There's nothing wrong with that. Mine is about the build up, about riding that mix as long as you possibly can, you know, dropping in something else. Like I said, effects. Now all these effects are built in on the mixes, you know, that you could do some really cool stuff with, and loops and stuff like that. You know, but at the end of the day, it'll always be about the music you play. You know what I mean? That's what you're going to be judged on. So, you know, mixing has been a little bit, it's a lost art form right now. You know what I mean? And it's no different. I'm a big Yankees fan, and it's no different how the league, you see very few 300 hitters now, because they're like, oh, batting average means nothing. It's all about on base percentage. It's all about, you know, OPS. You know what I mean? Everything. But to me, the Tony Gwynns and the guys who could bat 380 and only strike out 30 times a season, you know, hitting has become a lost form. Now it's all about all or nothing. You know, it doesn't matter if a guy bats 240 if he's going to hit 40 home runs and drive in 120 runs. So with the DJing, I still look at the art of mixing, where when it comes to house music, you need to know how to mix two records together. And I think a lot of guys, you know, it's been lost. It's been lost in translation. You know, I still got to play great music, but I'm still a believer that if you can't mix two songs on their own without looking at wavelengths and using the sync button, to me, I hate to say, you're not a true DJ. I know that'll probably piss off a lot of people, but I always say, listen, if you can't mix two songs with your ears and not your eyes, like you're not a true DJ, I should say. You can call yourself a DJ, but I've never used a laptop. And I'm not knocking. I know guys who can kill it with a laptop, but if you can't mix with your ears, you know, I learned by mixing with my ears. I couldn't even, to be honest with you, I couldn't even look at wavelengths and mix. I don't even know how these guys use Serato and literally don't use headphones. You know, they just go by the wavelengths. I mean, I'm sure if I gave it a day or two, I would pick it up, but it just seems so foreign to me. Yeah. You know, because on vinyl, there was no vinyl. I had to look at the grooves on the record when the break was coming up. I didn't know when the break was coming up. You know, I literally had to be like, all right, break's coming up. You know what I mean? So, you know, learning on vinyl and looking at the grooves and then just going by your ears, it's And that's why it took me so long to learn how to mix, because I wasn't looking at a YouTube, video showing me how, or looking at a wavelength saying, all right, I got to start the beat now, So
to me, I think why you were so successful putting out CDs is you look at it as a musical composition, right? It's the build up, it's the crescendo, and again, I don't, not taking anything away from mashup DJs, but I think it's kind of easier to just like this to this to this to this to this. It may not fit cohesively, but like what you're doing is a well conceptualized thought of what a song should be, and you build the song.
Exactly. And when the CDs, the first volume that I did, I actually mixed that live on vinyl, just straight through. There's nothing done. I just literally pressed record and I recorded it. When it was done, I listened to it. I said, all right, that's good enough to go. Simple as that. Volume 2, Volume 3, these are all done vinyl. Then I started using CDs and then using the computer and doing mix by mix. So, because the first volume, so the second volume, if I messed up, I had to start at the beginning again. There was no cut and paste. I wasn't hooked up to my laptop or to a computer saying, all right, let me redo this mix over. But yeah, in my mind, I would play over and over and over and be like, all right, this is where I think that the mix should start. It should come in right here. And songs that built up where there was an intro, there was a build up. There was the middle, there was a break in the middle. You can mix out in the middle. Now it's a free fall. Records are 2-3 minutes long and, very little for an intro and outro, but guys are remixing on the fly now. Cause when, you have these programs, it's very easy to do that. And you're going from build up to a drop. I listen to Cash and they're Jersey guys. I think they're from Clifton. Mm-hmm. 2 great producers. I went down to Miami last summer, and I watched these guys live, and these guys crushed it live. But it's so funny because and some of the songs they were playing, I didn't even know, but I was standing with a group of friends. I'm like, right after this build up, they're going to come out to a new song. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, because these guys, I just know how I could pick it up. They have to listen to these guys for 5 minutes. I know. And every build up, everything, I'm like, ready for a new song right now. My friends were, and I was drunk and they were in astonishment. They're like, how do you know when these guys, I'm like, because I just know when these guys are going to drop the next keyboard from another song. And that's, for me as a DJ, it was kind of frustrating because when they were playing a great record, they wouldn't let it go into that next part. And to me as a DJ, that frustrates me to no end. When a song that I want to hear, and you're like, oh my God, all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, they're in a new record. But listen, the crowd loved it, so I can't knock them. From a technical standpoint, I was, losing my mind that night that they weren't letting it get to that next drop. And they always had to cut something else in. And I was like, man, I'm like, that, to me, technically, it's wrong, even though the crowd was going crazy. So obviously the crowd doesn't care, but to me, being as a mixologist, I'm like, no, please just let it go to the next drop. I'm talking about just another 30 seconds, but 30 seconds to these guys is an eternity. It feels like 3 minutes to them, because a lot of these guys feel like if I'm not getting at it, if I'm not working every record, if I'm not getting to the next record as quick as I can, I'm not doing my job. You know what I mean? So it's like a bartender. Yeah, DJs, Jenks, they're pouring drinks, half the drinks going on the floor, and because they're just trying to crank out as many as they can. Or you go to a place, maybe like a Watermark in Asbury, which is a little higher end lounge. They're mixologists, like they're making each drink with attention. You know what I mean? Like they're not just like trying to pour three different liquors in at once. They're like taking care. I mean, you're waiting a few minutes for that drink, but the drink's going to taste better, right? Because they're taking a minute or 2 minutes to make a drink. And I'm not knocking these other bartenders. They got 700 people. They got to bang out these drinks as quick as they can. But you're going to tell me what drink is going to taste better? The one that the bartender took 2 seconds to make, or the one that the bartender took 2 minutes to make? And it's the same thing with mixing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What sounds better? A mix that got jammed in 2 seconds, or a mix that took 2 minutes to build into that next song? That's my personal feeling. I mean, some of your listeners could think I'm crazy, but this is the guy who's been spinning for 20 plus years. I'm going to look at it as an art form.
Please go back to what was that story? Mel C. You said you had a story. C.
So now I turn to you. Obviously, a song I wanted. KTU's playing it. I'm trying it. Got my lawyer saying, hey, it was on Virgin Records. Well, next thing you know, Z100 picks it up. So now it's crossing over to a top 40 record. So Virgin Records, everyone's trying to license this record, all the other record labels. And I'm like, man, how am I going to get this record? So I tell my lawyer, I'm like, Virgin, their headquarters is actually based in LA. Okay. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, call up LA. I'm like, they're telling us no in New York. I said, but let's go directly to headquarters. Uh-huh. And I forgot the woman's name. I remember sent her like a huge thing of friggin' flowers and a gift card. We sent it in and it got approved from licensing from LA. So when I put it out, every record label called up my office screaming bloody murder. How the fuck did you get this record? And mind you, it only cost me $10,000. I mean, $10,000 is a lot of money, but some other records were costing me $30,000 and they were nowhere near as big as that record was.
That's fucking huge, bro.
It really, it took. A lot of people said what I did was like wrong. I'm like, how is that wrong? I'm like, I went straight to the horse's mouth. I'm like, you guys are dealing with over here. And I remember one of the guys that worked for Virgin New York City, the record label, was livid. I'm like, hey, they signed off on it. And then they called up LA. You don't know this record's blown up over here. You shouldn't have licensed it. I'm like, well, too late. I'm like, the check is cashed. So it's going to be on the next CD. But like you said, that helped drive initial sales on Volume 3, but everything else, I mean, Zombie Nation, the Castles in the Sky, Dive in the Pool, Final Chapter. There was a lot of great music on that CD. The Melanie C opened up eyes, and that helped me reach that crossover crowd that maybe didn't know who I was yet, or really was only buying it for that Melanie C song, but then was like, oh my God, I like this other music is really good too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I think the sleeper on that album is Sandstorm.
Yeah. And still to this day, when I dropped that record, and it's so funny, Darude, who produced Sandstorm, he's actually had gone on record, like kind of saying he wished he didn't make that record, or he wished he didn't get that. That wasn't what he was known for. And I'm like, that's so discouraging. Like, you made a record. Like, yeah, I'm sure he didn't realize it was going to become an anthem, and that every baseball, football, soccer, hockey game, basketball arena in the world would be playing that record. I'm like, I look at that as a good thing. You know what I mean? Like he made something that probably 100 million people have bought and downloaded that record. I mean, that's how monster of it is. But that's the whole, too cool, a starving artist mentality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I never had that. I'm like, who wants to starve? I love to eat. You know what I mean? I don't want to be a skinny, starving artist. I want to be a chubby, friggin' artist. That's reaping the benefits of my hard work and my idea. So I never understood that, like that almost too cool. I got to keep it cool. And a lot of people like, oh, well, that's not underground music. I'm like, I never said it was. Some of it is. There's some of the tracks on my CD that are completely underground. Some of them aren't. You know what I mean? It's a mix of everything. It appeals to everything, whether you love a true underground sound, whether you like a Melanie C, something more commercial, and everything in between. And I think that's why I became so successful, because I didn't just pigeonhole myself to one type of sound, you know? And that's how, even now to this day, that's how I spin. I could play, the newest tracks off Beatport, or I could play a song that's 20 years old and everything in between. That's why people come out to my shows, and you never know what you're going to get. It's everything in between. And I think people like that,
A friend of mine invited me to a Facebook group called Classics. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes.
And I don't know how new it is, but for me, I've only been in there for probably, I don't know, maybe a month.
Right.
And my friends are starting to post, and a community of people bringing out sets from all different type of clubs, from all different type of areas. It's amazing. The nostalgia alone with this group. How do you feel being part of this, that you're such an influence in that group?
You know what? Someone actually just tagged me in a video. I did my 20th anniversary was in October from New York's Underground Party Volume 1, which actually I didn't even put Volume 1. It just said New York's Underground Party. I didn't want to put Volume 1 because who knows if there was going to be a Volume 2.
Yeah.
So, it was just New York's Underground Party. But I did my 20th anniversary of that CD at HQ in Atlantic City back in October. And that video I'll have to send it to you guys. When I played Sandstorm, it was about 2:00 in the morning. If you want to see the energy in that room, beyond. I don't remember half that night. They started. I told myself I wasn't going to drink until like 1 a.m. I started at 10:00, and they made me a Tito's and club soda, and I said. I drank it, and I said, I'm going to balance. For every Tito's and club soda I drink, I'm going to have a bottle of water. That lasted a whole 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I drank 1 bottle of water. I said, keep bringing the Tito's.
Yeah.
And me and my friends went through 6 bottles of Tito's in the DJ booth, just to tell you how fun of a night it was. So talking about the Classics group, when reading this, it's amazing because the people who love that music are so passionate about it. You know what I mean? Which is phenomenal. And it's just when you look at it, because, at the time, a lot of those people in that group probably, in their 40s, late 30s, anywhere from 35, probably maybe up to 50 in their 50s, but late 30s, early 40s, I'd say is the meat of that group.
Absolutely.
Everyone that when these songs were peaking were probably, 20 years old, 19, 21. So, some of those songs are 20 years old. So it puts you right in that 40 range. But it's, the music, great music will never die, and for some of the people out there that are like, why are you playing a song from 20 years ago? There's great new music. I'm like, why can't you play it all? Billy Joel sells out Madison Square Garden once a friggin' month. Okay.
Yep.
Every month he's got 15,000 people packed in there. And, I went back in August for the first time last summer, and it wasn't just people that were in their 50s and 60s and 70s. There was people in their teenagers. There was 20s. There was 30s. It was such a mix of people. And I'm like, there's not an expiration date on good music, whether it's, Billy Joel, Dean Martin, the Rolling Stones, the Doors, the Beatles, whatever you have, or, Green Day, Red Hot Chili Peppers, it doesn't matter. Or up into something that's right now. Great music is great music. And that classic stuff, people love to relive great times in their lives, whether it's being at when the Yankees won a World Series, you know what I mean? Or a moment that you had that you were in a club when this song dropped. Like you guys, with the Rich Luzzy, with the Without You, you know what I mean? The dive in the pool. It's, music makes you feel good. And especially now, what's going on in this world, and especially in our own backyard, like New York and New Jersey is like the epicenter of what's happening, which is really scary. So, the music thing, it just lets you relive, just like anything, just like when an old song comes on the radio, whatever station you're on, you hear a song, whether it's from last summer, it brings you back to last summer, or if it brings you back to 20 summers ago. That's a good thing. You know what I mean? So I'm all for it. And, the people that are, in that group, it's just great when someone, like I said, just tagged me in a post from my party in October. And this girl actually commented, she goes, outside of me getting married, this was the best night of my life. That's a pretty big statement. Like I was I replied back to the girl. I was like, wow, can you get any more bigger compliment than like my wedding was my favorite night of my life? This was a close second, she said. That makes me feel phenomenal. And that's why I'm going to do these parties. I had an ex-girlfriend from a while back. This is when I was first starting going to Ibiza to spin. She's like, when are you going to stop DJing? She's like, when are you going to grow up and stop DJing? And I was like, wow. I'm like, what does growing up have to do with DJing? You met me as a DJ. Like, this is my livelihood. Like, you met me at Surf Club while I was DJing. Now you want me to, not go to Spain? You don't want the club mecca of the universe. You don't want me to go to Spain? Why? Because there's girls there? I'm like, there's girls everywhere. You can go to friggin' Wegmans or Whole Foods and hook up. People have that such a thing about being in a bar and a club that that you're going to be up to no good, or just because I'm like, listen, I know plenty of people, that they meet people, whether it's the gym, whether it's friggin' a supermarket or a pizzeria. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be unfaithful, you're going to be unfaithful, regardless, where you're going to be. So, so that Classics group, it's a fun page.
Honey, you spilled a Miami Vice on me the first time you met me. Yeah.
Like, you met me while I was DJing. Now you want me to quit because you can't handle that there's, there's girls around, can't make it up.
How would you describe to someone that came up to you and said, listen, man, I've heard your stuff and I'm new to the game and I'm just trying to get into the game right now. And how could you help me? Do you have any advice for me?
Yeah. You know what? That's a good question. I mean, listen, there's a trillion DJs out there. which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Yeah, it depends how you look at it. I always tell people, I'm like, listen, believe in yourself. I'm like, that's the first and foremost, because if you can put your mind to it, you can believe that you could do something, you could achieve it. You know what I mean? I mean, I did, and I always knew, like I said, as far as I can remember, I always knew like this was my calling, to be a DJ. You know what I mean? And 20 years later, over 20 years later, to still do it. So if your heart's in it, I'd say, listen, if your heart is in it, just practice. I mean, I know that sounds silly. It's no different than telling, I'm sure someone told Aaron Judge when he was 12, 13 years old, stay in the batting cages. You know what I mean? That's it. And just think as big as a guy he is, that he didn't wind up playing football or something like that, because he doesn't look like your typical baseball player. But for an up-and-coming DJ, and learn how to mix live. Learn how to mix. You know what I mean? Don't use a laptop. If you're going to use 2 CDJs, all right, great. But learn the fundamentals. Like if you really are passionate about it, don't worry about getting a laptop. You know what I mean? Don't worry about that. Like learn how to really mix 2 songs together. You know what I mean? You could do that, then go from there. That's what I would tell anyone who's listening to this who wants to be a DJ, like a true DJ. You know what I mean?
I got a couple more questions for you. I know I'm not going to I can keep you here for 2 hours just bullshitting with you.
And this is, listen, this is fun. I see how long we've been on the phone, been on this for, an hour plus, almost an hour and a half. But as you can see, I love talking about it. I mean, this is something, no different when A-Rod starts to talk about hitting in baseball, like he gets lost in it. He can talk about it for days. This is something that, I still get excited about. So, shoot away. Yeah. I'm here for you.
Love it.
Rock, we might have to have Louie on for our sports segment too.
Seriously, we're gonna in-depth Yankees analysis of the year.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the year started.
Yes. Wow. My God. You know what? Now they're talking about maybe having to play in front of empty stadiums. Like I can't even picture what's happening right now. You know what I mean? And just think.
I gotta say, what's fucked up is, and again, I don't take this virus lightly. There's people passing away. People are sick, but. Like last week, it was Thursday, would have been opening day. And I'm like, I'm missing an opening day Yankee. And it sounds fucked up, but everything's relative, right? And it's just crazy.
And this Thursday would have been the home opener.
Yeah.
They're open on the road. They're opening on the road. And it's just like, just imagine that what this virus has done has crippled us. And, what's happening, in our own backyard in Jersey, and especially in the city in Queens, it's tragic. It's like, you know what I mean? Watching these press conferences, it's bad. I don't want to watch, but I want to watch. If that makes any sense. Like I'm like, I shouldn't watch, but then I feel like I need to watch. So
I know.
I just hope that we, I know we're going to get through this. I just hope it's sooner than later. And we don't lose, these projections are just, it's just really disheartening. And I don't want to, bring this podcast down in a bad negative way.
It's reality though.
It is reality. And it's really terrible what's happening. And I just hope everyone who's listening to this is staying in with their families. And just like you said, if you have to go out to get food and stuff like that, just please be careful and just stay away. I hate to say this, you literally have to assume that everyone out there has it. That's how you have to act. That everyone, if you go to ShopRite, Wegmans, Stop and Shop, Whole Foods, wherever you do your food shopping, you just have to assume that everyone has it. And then just stay with, minimum 6 feet. Minimum 6 feet, if not more. I'm at the cash register. I got people trying to cut me because I'm standing so far. I'm like, I'm online. I'm just trying to stay.
Louie DeVito does 1 aisle away.
I am. I'm like literally 15 feet away because, you know what I mean? And please just be safe, everyone. We're going to get through this, but, just please be safe when you must go out, like you said, for food. Obviously, we need to eat to survive, but just as soon as you come home, wash your hands, wash everything that you touched, and just please be safe.
Well, I'm very interested about nowadays in 2020. Now, so much difference from 2020 years ago, as far as you put out CDs and you're selling X amount of CDs. You put out a CD today, you have to check your streams.
Oh yeah, it's all about
there's a fucking CD. If I showed a CD to some kid I worked with, he'd go, "Oh no, I know what that is. Oh yeah, I know what that is."
And the funny thing is, who even has a CD player? I mean, most new cars, I don't even think my truck has a CD player in it.
Yeah, my last truck didn't have a CD player.
Yeah. I think my last 2 trucks, cars didn't have CD players. So, yeah, it's definitely about streaming. I actually have my own podcast. It's called Louie DeVito's Dance Factory.
Okay.
I actually put out the new episode today on iTunes.
Yeah, 11.
11. So I started the Dance Factory brand before that. I was just calling it like I Love House and I Love, techno, just simple generic names. But I said, let me use the Dance Factory brand. So so that just came out today. And, it's crazy. The downloads I get and the streams I get off that, I'm like, wow, I'm like, just think like, I get 20,000 and I'm like thinking that's pretty good. I'm like, I used to sell 20,000 CDs in a week.
Yeah.
I'm getting 20,000, downloads in a podcast in a month or two. I'm like, I used to sell that in a week.
Yeah.
So times have definitely have changed when it comes to, but listen, people still love music. It's, it's not people don't, it's just, we just stream it now between Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, however else you listen to your music and podcasts, obviously. So music will never go away and live entertainment will never go away. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people saying, oh, well, look, all these DJs are going live and stuff like that. And I'm like, but you know what? Live entertainment will never go away. There's nothing going to a Billy Joel concert or going to Coachella or EDC or Ultra Music Festival. Nothing beats that. Being surrounded with, thousands of other people who enjoy the same type of music you do, the lights, just the whole vibe. That will never go away, at least not in our lifetimes. You know what I mean? Maybe in 500 years from now, it'll be completely different. But, live entertainment and clubs, they're never going away.
I was telling Archie, I think after this, God willing, I think everybody will have a higher or greater appreciation for going out to see a band, going out to see a DJ, going out to see a comedian, going out to see a play, like anything live, like things you can't do right now. You can't go out to eat. You can't go out for a drink. You can't go out to see any type of entertainment. I really think there'll be actually a cultural rebirth of people getting back out there. And that's all we can hope for.
Oh, I think whether it's, your local pizzeria restaurant or if it's, Brooklyn Mirage, that holds 4,000 people and everything in between, it's going to be bedlam, insanity. People are going to, there's a meme being floated around out there that says, now I know when I open the door while my dog runs outside. You know what I mean? Because that's what we're going to do. We are going to run outside and it's going to be, things are going to turn around in such a positive way. And we're going to appreciate just being able to see each other. I mean, I know there's FaceTime, there's Skype, you could still, pick up the phone and FaceTime someone. And we have great technology right now, but we are going to hug and love people like there's no tomorrow. You know what I mean? After this is lifted. And I'm a firm believer that I don't know why this happened. And it's a tragedy and it's tragic that people are losing their lives, but we are going to come out of this much respected and grateful for life. And we're going to all come out as better people and appreciate the little things. Just like you said, going to the boardwalk this summer, going and meeting up with your friends and going to have a drink and just being able to be within 6 feet of someone. I think it's going to change society in such a great way. It's just a tragedy that we are going through literal hell to get to that other side, because right now, and, all these projections, I mean, they're talking about, I'm hearing that maybe 100,000 people could lose their lives. I mean, who would have thought this in 2020? We're America. No. In this day and age, with all the technology and the money that this country has, to have something so far away come into our own backyard and disrupt our lives the way we know it is just, when I start thinking about it, it chokes me up to really think like how scary something like this, but there's nothing we can do. The only thing we can do right now is stay in and then just,
stay home
and stay home. And once this is over, I put this all over my social media. I'm going to throw the biggest party ever. And I want everyone to come out. And I can tell you then, I will get so drunk that night that I don't even remember. I'm not going to remember if I'm even DJing that night. And it's going to be a fun time. But, we just got to get through the next month or a couple months when this is behind us. And, I just hope that no one that's listening to this gets affected by this or gets sick or, God forbid, loses someone to this, because it's just, it's just terrible what's happening right now.
I want to do something fun real quick. I'm going to name a couple bars, clubs. Now I could name 1,000, but obviously, right? Just obviously, I believe you spun there, but I just want one word answer. The first word that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'll try my best.
Tunnel.
Legendary.
Studio 4.
I've never been to Studio 4.
Neither have I, actually.
That was at Fort Lee, right?
Yeah.
Fort Lee, yeah. I remember. Yeah, it was right on the right-hand side.
Exactly.
We got to the GW Bridge.
Funny enough, I've been to all these fucking clubs. I've never been there.
Studio 4. I've never been to Studio 4.
Pasha. So pick anyone. Pick New York. Pasha, New York.
Oh, Pasha, New York. Yeah. I got so drunk that night that I actually took my shirt off. I was DJing with my shirt off. I was in pretty decent shape. I mean, right now with all the Italian bread I've been eating and staying in and really not exercising, I don't know if I want to take my shirt off right now, but I actually had a pretty good build back then. So yeah, shirt off, Red Bull, vodkas, complete yes.
Yeah.
Last time I went to Pasha, probably 5 years ago, on a whim, Danny, our friend, a Jersey City firefighter, rubbing my back saying it's going to be okay. I'll leave the story at that. Exit.
Derb.
Webster Hall.
Oh, Webster Hall. I spun there one night for my birthday, and all I know is that I don't know what happened that night.
I'm noticing a trend here. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's a couple of those nights.
Twilo.
Oh, Twilo Jr.
Sound Factory.
JP, that anti of playing a record for 30 seconds, JP would play Whitney Houston, Your Love Is My Love for 45 minutes.
I fucking love that song.
Okay. He would loop it, the a cappella. He'd go into every remix known to that song, back into his mix. 45 minutes. I was there one night. He played it for 45 minutes. And the club was so out in the world on whatever drug they were doing, it probably felt like 4 minutes to them. But I was actually sober and saying to myself, he's up to 40, 45 minutes on this song right now. Legendary. Only a guy like JP could do that.
I just have to throw up 1 second. I'm at Surf Club. I go out to the car. Let's just say I go out to the car because I wasn't feeling so well. I come back. I walk into Surf Club and everybody's pointing at me. The waiter's pointing at me. The people are pointing at me. I'm fucked up. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, how naive this was. Oh my God. They might have seen my band somewhere. They might know me. I'm walking next to Jonathan Peters walking in. I look to the right. I'm like, oh, that's why they're pointing at me. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So that took you down a notch.
That took me down a notch. Pure
in Sayreville. South Amboy. Yeah. I've done like 6 parties there. I love Pure. The Old Abyss.
Yes.
Great room. DJs. One word for DJs. I used to spend happy hour there before I even put out a CD. And to follow up on your point, I would get so drunk at happy hour while I was DJing that when I was done spinning, I would go in my car and sleep for an hour and then come back and then go for round 2 at 9:00 at night.
I'm going to end this little list off with the legendary Soundgarden.
Oh, Soundgarden. Chicago. Eugene and Trona, 2 words, legend. That guy, I'm a big Godfather fan, so he's my Tom Hagen. He's my consigliere. I run everything past him. Every move I make, he's literally my advisor. When I have an idea about doing an event or bringing something in, he's my go-to guy.
Awesome. Louie, I can't speak for Rocky, but I just want to thank you so much for doing this for us. You've globally, you've brought smiles to so many faces. You've brought panties down at the Jersey Shore for so many gentlemen. You've moved a lot of people, all kidding aside, with your music, I pretty much, if I was going to describe you, I would call you Mr. Anthem.
Thank you.
Mr. Anthem.
That's a compliment.
So I just want to thank you for doing this. And just please tell everybody where they're going to hear you, where you're playing next after everything, and just get it out there. Plug away, bro.
Well, the next show, 3 shows got canceled, postponed for April. The next show is supposed to be Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, May 23rd, in Asbury Park at House of Independence. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with that, May 23rd.
Okay.
I'm praying that that it happens. So that would be the next show. You can, stream and listen to my podcast on iTunes, or Podomatic is the app if you don't have iTunes. Louie DeVito's Dance Factory. Just type it in, come straight up. There's 11 of them, and then there's maybe about 40, 50 older podcasts on there of mine. So that's, and then my website, louiedevito.net. My Instagram is Louie DeVito. My Twitter is Louie DeVito. Facebook is Louie DeVito. Pretty simple. If you type in Louie DeVito on Google, I should come up.
Louie, thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. We want to thank you so much. I mean, it much appreciated. You're a gentleman. You provided a soundtrack for a great time in our lives, and the joy you bring to people is awesome.
Thank you so much, and thank you for helping me kill 2 hours of my night. Went by pretty quick. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to go search, Tiger King on Netflix, because I know that's I don't know if I want to watch. I'm getting a little scared. So, but I see everyone from A-Rod to Shaquille O'Neal, and every person on my timeline either tweeting about it or posting about it. So I may have to join the cult.
I'm 3 episodes in. It's a train wreck. You can't look away.
Yeah. And that's what I'm seeing from the comments and the memes being posted. I'm like, I don't want to watch this, but I feel as a person that I need to watch this.
You can't miss out.
That may be my next show.
All right, everybody. Louie DeVito, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Talk to you later, brother. That was such a cool interview. Not only did Rocco and I grow up with that music, but we got to talk to Louie firsthand, and what a class act. I like to call him Mr. Anthem, because everything he touched was a fucking anthem. With that being said, Rocco, is there anything left to say to the people?
If you just got done watching Tiger King, put down that buffalo wing, because you don't want to end up like Carol Baskin's husband in a tiger ring. Then you're listening to Not These Two Fucking Guys podcast.
We out.